Hey everybody, really wish I could have made it in person. Just wasn't an option for me. Currently based in Phuket, Thailand. Want to thank all the editors at Garbanzo. Did a fantastic job. Couldn't have asked for anybody more fun, quirky for a first publication. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Jason Garcia woke up from terrible nightmares of Grape. He woke up as a large, plump, seedless grape in a sauna. Waking up either in a tanning bed or a sauna for a grape was exactly the sort of nightmare Jason Garcia would have if he were a grape. Of course, now that he was a grape and he wasn't dreaming of being in a sauna, but actually was in a sauna, things were a bit different than he expected. If he had dreamt it, he would have been both present within the shriveling grape as its moisture was sucked out of it and its once firm and delicate skin began to contract, as well as outside, the narrator to his own dream, an out-of-skin experience. From the outside, he'd watch the brown stem at the crown of his head darken, break off. This he could not do. He could sense the presence of the stem on his head, like an umbilical cord still dangling from the belly button, but he couldn't see it. Jason Garcia was alone in the sauna, which had neither doors nor hinges. He could, however, hear voices outside his box. There were two types of voices leaking through the wooden walls of the sauna. The first set of voices were in English. The second set were odd, deeply rhythmic ums, like Buddhist chants. The ums emanated from the walls, making Garcia's skin shiver. They were youthful, but gathering depths as their voice aged. I don't know. How much is a year at Sunmate? It's 50,000. He doesn't have that much, and we can't afford to make up the difference. Maybe you could just stop by his apartment a couple times a day. Check in on him. Make sure he has food. You could bring the kids along. The kids get so bored when they visit, and I really feel like he needs more help. Maybe a live-in nurse? But then again, that's expensive too, and he'd still be alone at night. He's fading so fast. I really just want him to be comfortable. Jason Garcia wasn't comfortable. It felt like less than 15 minutes had passed, and already his crinkly skin was starting to fold up on itself, like a crushed piece of paper. There just seemed to be less of him to fill out the skin. He didn't feel any less of a grape than he had been. Less of a grape. Jason Garcia pondered this thought. Had he fallen asleep as a grape? He couldn't recall a single morning dew on his gently bloating body in the vineyard. No, he hadn't fallen asleep as a grape. It was the heat. It was insatiable. He kept giving water from his body to cool down the room, but it just turned to steam in front of his eyes. Um, um, said the voices from the walls. These voices no longer sounded strange. They were the voices of neighbors. Mr. Garcia stopped thinking about the heat, about his sweltering insides, and his wilting youth. He listened to his neighbors. The started to unravel. When Mr. Garcia listened, he could pull out single threads of voice. There was the sun, warm on our back as we breathed in the ocean air. His tiny feet danced on my flowering face. Remember how tiny his feet were? So delicate, so energetic, so ready for the world? A deeper thread untangled itself from the cloth of We drank, Lord, we drank, and there was no need of bottles, glasses. We drank deeply from the source. My God, didn't we drink? Mr. Garcia did remember drinking. There was a party at Margaret's. She had a farm and a bootleg distillery. They'd all clambered into a hay wagon pulled by a tractor. It was October, and the night was cold and fresh. He had lain under the stars, drunk, smiling at the smell of hay. What about Delmont? Delmont? Yes, they were cheap, weren't they? Yes, but remember how unhappy everyone seemed. Not a single employee smiled at him. Not one smile. It looked like a terrible place. It really isn't much cheaper. True, but it got wonderful reviews online. But who writes the reviews? Garcia struggled to hear the voices that came down from above. They were spoken so quickly, so softly, so very softly. Garcia tried to stand and press his ear against the ceiling. The people above sounded almost familiar. They were so serious, so terribly serious. Garcia toppled over on his side and rolled up against one of the walls. His stem snapped off and lay on the ground next to him. It was twisted and black and hard, but it had once been malleable and firm. Garcia wanted to vomit. His insides cringed and twisted tightly, but there was nothing to throw up. He needed water. He needed out of this box. Garcia rolled and tried to stand. He felt light-headed from the heat. The voice above kept talking, but he couldn't understand. He could only hear the of his neighbors. How we clustered together? Remember how it was when we had so many friends? All pressed up against each other? As we matured, our skins rubbed back and forth against each other when the wind shook us? Remember when we starved? When there was no drink to go around? No, 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 cried many panicked voices who didn't want to remember the bitterness. G did remember. How had he forgotten? He had no seed. He had grown up a eunuch in a field of eunuchs, and yet they had swollen from drink and from warm company. He remembered the sweetness that had been mellowed out with drink. What about Dole or Bran? Bran is the cheapest. Yes, and does fit his budget, and it's a mixed community. Crazy people, total flakes, did not equal a mixed community. This is our father, for God's sake. Fine. Dole. She could not remember having ever slept or ever woken up. He peered at the broken stem on the floor and wondered whose it was. They should have picked it up. It was disgusting. The sauna no longer felt hot. He'd fed it. Maybe now it would leave him in peace. He felt a sharp, concentrated sweetness inside and remembered. A raisin in a sauna added his memories to the vineyard, to the of his neighbor. Remember when we were hard and small, green all over, still firmly attached? He asked. His neighbors smiled. They remembered. There was a rush of cool air as the top of the sauna was removed. He looked so old. Shh. Hey, Pops, how are you? The raisin was silent, pondering the sticky sweetness inside his tiny body. Dad, they'll take good care of you at Dole. The raisin was paid for and left in a small cardboard box packed with other raisins. Together they tried to remember the warm sun on their firm skin. Waking Up as Grape by Isaac Stone Simonelli. Thank you guys so much. Hope you guys enjoy the evening.